It's that time again. Time for another edition of Angela's Homeschool. I've been looking through my notes, and I would write down things that would happen. And her homeschool career. And this was just a few years ago. My youngest was only 7 years old and had written her first book called The Silent Princess. And I was taken aback when I read this, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Again, we're a homeschool family, and we live with each other 24/7. Now think of your children, your loved ones, 24/7. I get to the point where I just, how do I say? You understand what I'm saying? I take things for granted. And that's difficult for me to talk about. It's very difficult for me to talk about. And I don't know. It's just one of those things that we had to learn in life, to be humble. And a little girl taught me so very much. A little girl that was not my own. And I'll just read from what I wrote. It's a little bit emotional for me at times. It was around, it was around the 4th of July. Wow. Oh, I remember that summer. The knocking. Well, this is what I wrote. The other day I was moved to a sincere state of humbleness or humus. My youngest daughter has a dear friend by the name of Kaisha. Athena being 7 and Kaisha being 6. They call each other sister. I hear knocks on my back door daily. Can Athena play? I invite her in, it's all right with her mother to invite her in. Lately she has stayed for dinner or lunch or whatever meal is closest. She takes great joy in sitting at our family table. She likes the food. But that is not what she finds most nourishing. She admonishes anyone that dares to try to eat prematurely. She'll say, no, 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 not yet, not yet. She will then look up to me, blinking the longest eyelashes I've seen in quite some time. She wants to hear the words. The words to a blessing she rarely hears, if ever at her home. Now, she says, oh so politely. I make the announcement, quiet, and I start to pray. We do a blessing of our food at our family table. Sometimes a short blessing and others lengthy. Lately her eyes have been moist when I finish praying. On one particular evening after dinner last week, our friend commented while looking at me, God must love me to put you in my life. Silence on my end. Silence as my eyes became moist, as they are now. She went on to say that the best part of my meals was the prayer. And, you make me feel so loved. Thank you. I almost lost it then and there. I muttered with sweetness, well, thank you. I excused myself to the bathroom where I cried quietly for a moment. How humbled was I? And I recalled a verse in the book of Matthew where Jesus talks about the light of the world and how dark the night now is. In Matthew chapter 5:14, it says, you are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. End quote. Oh, little eyes, big eyes, are always watching, not only listening to our words, but our deeds that are small in our eyes. Let the light shine. I am humbled today. And that is what I wrote back then. And I think of that little girl. I didn't know it at the time, but there was rarely any food in her home. So that's the reason why she was popping up 8 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. Then for lunch that summer and dinner. And we started to invite her mother as well. And then finding out they just little things, low on toilet paper. And yeah, those are the small things in life. And they came from a rough section of town, or background, we'll put it that way. But that little girl was a princess. She was so polite and so sweet. They later had to move because they were unable to pay the rent, and it was a sad moment. But this little girl was always dirty, and I would clothe her, I would feed her, and she was just a diamond in the rough. We still stay in contact with Kaisha. We have a great time. We take her to the zoo. We go a few different places. And, here I thought I was going to teach this little girl so much. Help her out so much. And instead, she taught me a great deal. I was humbled over and over by this young little princess. This little Kaisha, who I'm convinced one day will be a leader. Such a positive personality. I've said this before on other podcasts, but a church we used to go to, it was a Methodist church, a lady minister. At the end, at the benediction of the service, she would say something that I thought was always odd. And at first, I took offense at it. I was a little bit oversensitive at the time, as women sometimes get, and I don't mind admitting that. She goes, I hope this week you will meet someone that makes you feel very uncomfortable. I hope you meet a difficult person. And I'm thinking, what is she saying? And then she would say in the softest tone, when you meet them, realize that God has brought you to that person for a purpose. So she would go on to say, she would repeat it again. I hope this week you meet someone that makes you feel very uncomfortable. And know that God has led you to this person. We need to get out of our skin sometimes and be real. And that's not just in the homeschool world. In the homeschool world, we sometimes become very secluded, isolated. The status quo is always there. We control every environment. And it's nice when we step outside of the box and see reality and get a message from God in a most creative way. So this has been another moment from Angela's Homeschool. I hope you've enjoyed it. I have a Facebook page called Angela's Homeschool. And at Angela's School on Twitter, it's called Angela's Homeschool. You can send a message there or send a comment or a question that you might have in your homeschool adventures to homeschooltruth@yahoo.com. I look forward to your suggestions, comments, and questions as we all go on this homeschool journey to learning the best life lessons and meeting that person that makes you feel uncomfortable, and know that God has led you there. I thank you and look forward to hearing from you once more. Good day.